I'm an average gamer. I have played so many games throughout the entire childhood, all from Mario games to Legend of Zelda. But when I'm getting older, I was introduced to some other games like Minecraft, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft. I was really hooked on those games. And when I first was told about World of Warcraft by a friend of mine, I was actually curious to know more about the game. So I so I looked it up on the online and I was really interested about the game. So I bought the copy about the game and started playing it. Even in the beginning I was a total newbie, but it didn't stop me from stop playing the game at all. Anyways, after a while I really started to enjoy the game. My name is Jason, by the way. This happened when I was about 18 years old, around 2017. And after I've been playing World of Warcraft for a while, I started getting much enjoy the game and getting understanding of how to play it. And over time, I leveled up in the game. And I made a lot of friends with other players that I played online. And some of them are actually still playing today. But there is one event in this game was that was pretty much disturbing to me. This happened around 2017. One evening when I was playing with some of my friends, a user, I don't remember his name that is today, but I know that his real name was Peter, and he was a few years older than me. He was about 22 years old. He asked us if he could join our party, and since we needed at least one more player, and I was like, why not? And he was actually good. He was just a bit lower level than me, but he was good at playing this. He told us that he had been playing this game for a little bit while now, and that he was just looking for to join some party from time to time to increase his levels and get more experience. And we all agreed that's something that he could do from time to time. So from that day, he sometimes when he get online a game and asked if he could join us for a raiding party or something like that, and I was like, sure, why not? And we started accepting him as a friend. But did we know for sure what his kind of person he was? Oh boy, it's pretty disturbing. I admit that I to that now. If I could tell my younger self about this, we could have prevented this from happening. You may understand why I'm saying that. You see, Peter was, like I said, he was a few years older than us, and he was a guy. He started making some rude comments about certain people after. Sometimes when we were playing, we used to talk about our daily lives, and he mentioned one day that he had such a bad day. His girlfriend dumped him because he was, in her words, very obsessed. And I was like, that's just terrible. And he's like, yeah, agreed. I mean, I would just want to know what she's doing up to the most of the day, and we didn't know much details, but we later learned he was really obsessed of his ex. Quite literally obsessed. He demanded to know exactly what she was doing almost every 5 minutes or so. And we didn't know that until much later on though. But eventually, all of that happened that he eventually started to telling us that he was admitting himself that he was bisexual. And he told us that he asked us if we could tell something. And we were like, sure, what is it? And he told us that he was bisexual. And he didn't know how we would react if he told us that. And there was no silence moment between all of us. We said, dude, it's fine. We don't judge you because you're bisexual or if you're gay or something. We don't mind. We support any of that. And he thanked us for to be very supportive. But over time, he started acting a little bit strange, but mostly towards me. I didn't know at the time, but one of my friends who made the connection told me that Peter might have a crush on me, despite not having even actually seen my face or something. And I was like, there's no way he could actually have that. And I have to be saying it right now, I'm straight and not I'm not into guys at all. I mean, I don't mind that we have friends who is bisexual or gay. I support that community, I do. But I was just not attracted to guys. When he did ask me if I was considered to be dating someone like him if I had opportunity, I was like, wow. Um, I'm afraid to say this, Peter, but I'm afraid I wouldn't date a guy. He asked why. Well, I'm not actually into guys at all. I'm just into girls, and I actually is in a relationship already, which was true. He said that he understand, and he said it was just more like a question rather from other things. I was like, okay, maybe that was now that he did ask me, and at least that was taken care of. But from time to time, he did start making remarks about how I will be a perfect boyfriend for him, and that he will treat me much better than my girlfriend would. I was like, at first I just brushed it off, but he kept doing it over and over and over. And it started to get a bit annoying, but also pretty much disturbing and a bit freaky. So one day when I was just meeting with some of my friends, I told them about this, and they all agreed Peter should not be doing this. After all, I was in a relationship, and two, he was at least a few years older. Another thing is, he didn't even live in the same state as us. I lived in the Midwest. I don't want to say exact location, but he lived somewhere on the West Coast, and it's not gonna work. So one day when I was just playing myself, he started to ask me some questions about myself, and then he suddenly asked if I would break up with my girlfriend to be with him. I asked him why. He admitted he had fallen in love with me. I was like, rolled my eyes and told him once again, I'm sorry, Peter, but I'm not into guys. I told you this before. And he asked me if I considered to change my mind, opinion, to be with the guy. At least go on a date to see if it works. But I told him, how would we be able to go on a date if you lived across the country from me? Then the bombshell news. He told me that he was actually in my area. And here's the thing. I never told him exactly where I lived. Only as I lived in one particular state, but I never said, well, at least the city or town name. But after I figured out, I told him, listen to me. I'm not interested in you. I'm not wanting to date you at all. He then freaking out, started screaming, yelling at me that I was against him because he was bisexual, that I lied from the beginning. And all this happening when we were in a game. I told him firmly, Peter, you broke one promise. What promise? He said, yelling, that you wouldn't even do this. He went silent. But then he started yelling at me again, and I had enough, so I logged out of the game, and I didn't return back to the game for a few days. And one day when my friends were having a rainy party, they asked me if I wanted to join in. I asked if Peter was there. They said no, he wasn't. They were aware about what he had been doing. So I went joining the game, and only maybe half an hour later, who did join in rather than Peter? He asked if I joined the party. And thanks to my grateful friends, they said no immediately. They told him that he's never welcome back in our raiding party alliance ever again. After what he did to me. He started to apologize, and he didn't mean it. He was just drunk at the time. he wasn't even slurring or he wasn't no signs of he was drunk at all. But he told me that in a party that he was in love, still in love with me, and I told him, I'm flattered that you like me that way, Peter, but I'm sorry, and I'm not interested in you at all. I'm sure you can find a guy like yourself back home. I mean, figure it. I understand if you like me that way. I am flattered, but to be realistically, how often would we be meet if we were be dating? Since you live on the West Coast and I live in the Midwest. He went silent. I'm not saying to try to do thing to be rude to you, Peter. Just imagine it. How often would we even to meet in person? The travel distance is far. If you were to meet someone like yourself, or maybe someone like me, but in your area, some of my friends actually tuned in and said, yeah, he's agreed. I mean, if you did find, how often would you meet him? If you were dating a guy in your area, similar to Jason, you will be able to meet him much more than like this. Eventually, Peter agreed, but he once again said, if I would change my mind, I would be there for him at any time. After that, he left the party, and, well, let's say this, I actually blocked him on the game, and my friends did the same. And that was the last time we ever even saw or even talked to Peter. I later learned from another mutual friend that Peter did find a guy back home, and it took him a while for to even to to face reality that we wouldn't be able to date. I mean, there was only a few years apart between us, and I wouldn't have mind to be dating someone who was a few years older than me. To be fair, my parents are all about themselves are only a few years between, so at least this was a bit of creepy gamer event in my life experience, but at least it didn't go too far. So I still wish the best for Peter, but please, let us never meet in person ever, ever again. Having a frightening gaming experience is the most frightening that most people probably wouldn't even want to experience. My name is Emily. This happened to me when I was 19 years old back in 2015, and I am pretty disturbed how this event even shook my life so badly. In my entire childhood, I loved to play video games with my friends or my siblings. We often played Mario games and some other games that we came across. But when I first heard about Minecraft, I was really interested in the game, and after I got it myself, I started to actually enjoy the game. And I started even playing the game with my friends, and we had a lot of fun. But then it came to this one freaking disturbing experience when it came about the game that freaked me out. And that was my own experience and only experience when it comes to a gamer stalker. You heard me right, I had a stalker and it freaked me out. And one day when I joined in the game, I received a message from a guy named Tommy. Tommy said that he was a few years older than me. He admitted that he was 25, and I was 19, and I saw that he was actually good in the game, and I actually had a few other friends that was a little bit, few years older than me, in their early to mid 20s, something like Tommy, so it was not like anything different. So we started talking, we playing games together from time to time, and eventually I started seeing a different side of Tommy. he started asking me some personal questions, like what I thought about high school, if I have any plans for college or university. I told him I was actually in community college in my hometown, and he asked me what my courses were, which honestly though I did mention. And I mean, it wasn't like anything too revealing of my personality or my life. So we start talking more about ourselves, like what we like to do in our spare time when we're not playing games, and if we have any family. But when he did ask me more like where I was from, I preferred not to mention exactly where I was from. We didn't even live in the same state apparently. I mean, we only mentioned the state that we lived in, but not more precise, because at least to have some privacy for all that. And he asked me if I was dating anyone. I said, actually, I was dating a guy, but it didn't last long. You may understand why. Because only about a few days, or at least a few weeks later after he asked me that, I found out my boyfriend at the time was cheating on me with another girl. I was heartbroken. And one day, the same day when I came on the game to play some myself to keep my mind focused rather from than being cheated on, Tommy talked to me and he did notice something that was off. He asked me what happened. I told him. He was absolutely understanding that, well, that my boyfriend or my ex cheated on me. He told me that if he was my boyfriend, he would never do that. He would treat me as a queen. I thanked him for that. Then he asked me if I would be perhaps would be interested in dating a guy that was a bit a few older, a few years older than me. I told him I might have done that, but now I'm not gonna date anyone for at least a while now. He understood, and we continued to play the game. But after about a month or so after the breakup, Tommy then, out of the blue, just asked me out, or at least asked me to be his girlfriend. I was flattered that he liked me, but I said no. I prefer to only to be dating someone that I have met in person at least for one time. And he agreed that he could travel to my state so that we could meet each other. I was dumbfounded that he even suggested that. But I didn't even know him that well. And even when mentioning to some of my friends about this, they were actually on high alert. They said this is a red major flag. First, I had never seen his face. Even though he claimed to be 25, he could have been way older than me. He could have been like in his 40s or 50s. Hearing that from my friends, it hit me. They're right. He could be twice or maybe three times older than my age. And when I mentioned this to Tommy, he said he is actually 25, and I later learned he was 25 and not older. But he said they could meet in person. They could bring, that I could bring one of my friends as a witness. I asked him about one of my friends, and at least my best friend at the time, and still is, she agreed. So, one day we did actually meet up Tommy. And he was 25, and I admit he was handsome. But my friend had this feeling that there was something off about Tommy. But we did hang out, and after that day, we still talked on the game, played the game together, and all that. But there was something about him. He started asking me two more personal questions, like what I like to do in my spare time when I was alone. I started getting a bit uneasy about this. But then, he started to appearing in my hometown, despite living in a different state. I mean, it was like he did mention that he had some relatives that lived in my hometown or in an area. So, I saw him at least once, then twice, then three times. First time, I thought maybe it was just a random happening, but when those occurrences repeated more than like 10 times almost in the same week, in all different places like I like to go, like the park, the mall, or even just be with my friends, I started to realize this is not normal. When I asked him about this, oh, he said I was just there randomly, by a lucky chance, that he said. I started wondering if that was true. When I brought this up to my friends, they immediately said this is not normal. If it was maybe just once or twice, that would not be just a random chance, but having it so repeatedly, so many times, so frequent, and of all of those places that I like to go to, they told me I had a stalker. At first, I refused to even acknowledge I had a stalker, even though I know what a stalker were, but I refused to even believe in that. And oh boy, I had really so young and naive to believe that. And then one day, Tommy asked me if I wanted once again to be his girlfriend. And I said no this time. And he started asking me almost angrily why. Why would I ever give him a chance? I told him I was not looking for any interest or romance right now. I just want to focus on college and, of course, family most. But he said that they can always be dating, but even if it was a long distance. At least give it a chance. But I firmly said no. And then he started yelling me, calling me I led him on. First of all, I never did. Most of the when we were talking, they were mostly about the game. And second of all, he was the one who appeared in my hometown so many times. Even though despite I never told him to even to show up in my town in the first place. And that I wouldn't have agreed if it was just okay if it was happened twice. But so many times repeatedly, more than 10 times in just a week or a month or so, no, that's not okay. And that the fact that he showed up in some of my favorite places, and one day, I found a package out in the front door with no return sender address on it, and was actually even not having even it was only one thing on it. My name. My full name. First name and last name. And I opened it. It contained a small teddy bear with holding a heart, and was a note, and it was signed, you guessed it, Tommy. He wrote this letter to express his true love, hoping that this would win my heart to him. And it could, of course, contain a box of chocolate. But here's the thing. I never told him my exact home address. So they had only one conclusion. He had followed me home in a distance. Because since the box, the package, didn't even have any address from either my home address or his returning address from. So, how in otherwise would it happen? Did I keep this a secret from my family? Oh no. After that, when I got the package, I immediately told my family, and they freaked out. I told them about Tommy, like how I met him. We were just talking on the game, and that I did meet him in person. But I had a friend with me just in case if this was going to be a fake or something. And they at least told me that I was smart enough to bring someone with me at the first meeting. And I told him that he had been showing up so many times in my hometown on all my favorite spots. We immediately went to the police and reported this. We filed a report and we gave them the box and the note and all that. And the police contacted Tommy and they told him to stay away from me because I felt unsafe with him around me. That same evening, he yelled at me because calling the police on this, just in his words, matter of love. I told him firmly I never loved him at all. I only saw him as a friend, nothing more and less. And in fact, I was having enough of this. I blocked him on the game, told my friends to do the same thing, and it still repeated, appeared in my hometown, and even appeared in my front door. But my dad told him firmly to stay away from me, but told me it didn't stop. So I went back to the police and have a restraining order against him. That made him finally to realize, no matter what he do, he's just stopped. So ever from that day, I had never seen him in my hometown or heard a peep, or even a single word from him. And that's a good thing too, because I was so close to realize, wondering what to do next. Should I even somehow move from my hometown and go to some unknown place? It's only a matter of time before he could somehow track me down again. So, Tommy, please, stay away from me ever again. And for goodness sake, let's hope you don't do the same thing towards another person. If you do, I hope they will do the same things as I do to tell someone and make you stay away from that. So for goodness sake, please don't repeat the same thing again. Thank you.